Ag PhD full episodes and more are now available on Acres TV, the newest ag platform connecting you to fields of information. Look for us on watchacrestv.com.
During our Farm Basics time today, we're going to talk about what do farmers do with yield maps.
First of all, if you're not a farmer, you're wondering, well, what do you mean yield maps? Farmers have great technology right in the combine, the harvesting machine. As they're driving through the field harvesting, it's telling them exactly what the yield is, and it's measuring it multiple times per acre. So farmers can literally just watch in the combine, hey, I'm getting 200 bushel corn, hey, I'm getting 300 bushel corn, whatever that number is. As they head through the field, it's going to vary. And the software will generate a map for the farmer of exactly how that whole field turned out for yield, where the good spots were and where the bad spots were.
So the question that we're asking today is, what does a farmer do with that information? Well, for many years, a lot of farmers just said, boy, this is a nice map, and I see where the good area is and where the bad area is, and you know what, I might try to make a couple little adjustments, maybe try to figure out what was going wrong in the bad area, but we just didn't see a lot happening with these yield maps.
Well, it was one of the early precision ag tools, just getting a yield map. Now, there's software developed to help us do things with those maps, like, for example, varying the amount of plant food that we put back in a field. It makes a lot of sense. If you had a whole bunch of crop in one area of the field and not very much in the other, well, it isn't going to take a whole lot of plant food to put back what the crop took out in the poor area, but in the good area, we may take some of that plant food that we're not using over here and use it over there in the high yielding area to try to get really good yields next year too.
The other thing that we do even in our own operation is we vary planting populations. Now, I'm not saying we do it entirely based on last year or the year before's yield map, but to some degree we do. We look at, okay, historically in this area of the field, how good has the yield been? If it's been really good, we plant more corn and we plant fewer soybeans. And you might say, wait a second, why would you plant fewer of anything? Well, with soybeans, they're a much different plant than corn. You just have to understand that plant physiology. The soybean plant will get a lot taller in the good area. It can bush out a lot more in the good area, and you just, quite frankly, don't need as many plants.
And there are just so many variances out in fields. This is one of the things that's been eye-opening for farmers, that, wow, I didn't realize my yield varied that much within the field, because as I was making a pass across the field, I'd fill up my truck. So I thought it was pretty similar to the last pass, but you know, there's high yield and low yield everywhere you go. For me, the biggest thing I would say that I'm getting out of these yield maps is it's targeting where I'm going to scout my fields. So I may go out and soil sample in some of these poor areas and some of the good areas and say, what's happening here in the poor area that when I have the good soil and the best tests I'm not seeing, and how can I fix that? Because if we can fix those poor areas and get them even to be average in the field, it really helps our yield.
Now, Darren said, hey, it looks like this and I feel this way. You know what? Bankers like numbers. And we're going to be talking a little about prepaying inputs today. So we'll talk a little about what the banker may have to say. But the nice thing with having that yield map is now, let's just say, for example, you want to put some drain tile in a poor area of the field. You can go to the banker and say, hey, this soil type is really good, but look at how poor my yield is. Now, if I run the math, I can figure out how much that tile could actually pay for me over a period of years. This allows us to put some numbers to it rather than just guessing.
Well, yield maps are a wonderful tool to have on farms. One of the things that may show up in some of the poor yielding areas is bad weed control. If you had this weed of the week get out of hand on your farm, it could really rob some yield. So we'll show you how to stop it later in the show.